Welcome, everybody, one more time to another episode here on the Sitrep podcast. I am your host, Risky Jim, and we are back for some naval action in what is at least my favorite campaign in the Pacific, the Solomon Islands. We're going to be doing one of the darkest days in the history of the U.S. Navy, the Battle of Savo Island, which is probably the biggest battle defeat the Americans suffered, depending on how you measure it. Definitely one of the big ass whippings the Americans took in the Pacific in World War II. Probably only superseded by Pearl Harbor, although I should say only exceeded by Pearl Harbor. And Pearl Harbor's not really a battle. Pearl Harbor's just a naval disaster. That was a strike that came out of nowhere. Seriousness. We're going to go over, and I do mean very quickly, we're going to go over quickly the background of this campaign. Of course, I'm in the wrong place on the spreadsheet. Okay, so we've talked about the Solomons campaign a lot over the last couple weeks. Why? It's the 80th anniversary of this campaign. It's a pivotal part of World War II in the Pacific. Big time involvement with the United States, obviously, also Australia, also New Zealand. So we want to make sure that we include everybody that was, really involved in this. We will have Australians in today's game, albeit under the command of a British naval officer who, unfortunately for everybody, is not on the table. And the British admiral that was actually in charge of this fleet was actually here because the American that was in command in his place was not so great. Kind of a tool. And we'll go over how that works in the game as the stream progresses. So, again, we've talked about the Solomons a million times, so I won't go over it. Long story short, take your first shot. The Americans are in the wake of Midway, mounting an offensive back against the Japanese for pretty much the first time. Victorious as they were, and that's kind of a stretch when it comes to the Battle of Coral Sea, the Battle of the Coral Sea and the Battle of Midway had been defensive battles. The Japanese were coming at us, and we were defending against their attacks. Now we are hitting back against them. About 40 hours before this battle takes place, a little bit after midnight, in the wee hours of the morning of August 9th, 1942, so about 40 hours before that, about midday, early morning on August 7th, the American Marines had landed on Guadalcanal. 1st Marine Division. We've already done battles in Guadalcanal, battles of Tulagi and Valor and Victory, so you guys have heard about all that. I won't repeat myself 100 times. The Marines have landed on Guadalcanal, so as you put troops ashore, you have to have a fleet there to protect them. Because the enemy, if they have a strong navy, unlike Normandy, where the Germans didn't really have a big navy, if the enemy has a big navy, which the Japanese definitely did, yes, even after Midway, they can come down and they can shoot up your landings. And all your helpless troop ships and transport ships, those landing zones are incredibly vulnerable. So the big goal here for the Americans and their Australian allies is to protect these landings against possible Japanese incursions out of the northwest, i.e. the base at Rabaul, which we have talked about 100 times before. So that's the short version. The Japanese, surely enough, did not waste any time. So zooming in on the Solomons, we see where Rabaul is there to the upper left, and a guy by the name of Rear Admiral Makawa. He would be promoted to Vice Admiral later. But here he is coming down out of his base at Rabaul. He's in charge of the 8th Fleet of the Imperial Japanese Navy. And he is heading down between those islands in what became known as the slot, because it looks like a little groove there in the ocean between all those islands. And this is the main shipping channel that leads between Rabaul, the big Japanese base, and Guadalcanal, where the Americans have landed. And now the American and Australian navies are trying to protect those landings. So he's coming down. Now here is the overall Japanese pattern that we're going to see for about the next 6 months, all through the Solomons campaign. Japanese don't always have the best carrier support. They lost most of their carriers at the Battle of Midway. So what they have to do is they have to use land-based bombers at these little bases that you see, especially Rabaul. Rabaul's a huge base. But also on some of these other islands that they still hold, they can provide air cover for their fleets against American carriers aircraft during the daytime. At this time in history, naval air operations at night were not really a thing. They certainly are nowadays, but back in the day, wasn't really a thing. So the Japanese would time their approach very carefully so that just as their surface ships, especially their heavy cruisers and their like Hiroshima class battle cruisers, as we'll see in later battles, but as their surface ships are exceeding the range of their land-based fighter protection, the sun is going down. Then the Japanese make the rest of their approach under cover of darkness. They engage American ships. They do one of three things, sometimes all three in one night. The Japanese got so efficient at this operation would become known as the Tokyo Express by American soldiers, or American Marines and sailors, because it was that regular and that efficient. The Japanese got damn good at doing this. They would exceed, like I said, the fighter cover of their surface ships would exceed the limit of their fighter cover right as the sun was going down, and then under the cover of darkness, the Japanese would set flank speed, haul ass down the rest of this channel, and do 1, 2, or 3 of the following things. Number 1, engage American surface ships and shoot the hell out of them. Japanese were much better at night fighting. They had much better surface launched torpedoes, just pretty much torpedoes in general, especially in 1942, when American torpedoes were barely worth the metal they were made out of. Something to do with the magnetic contact detonators. They didn't work. So you would get plenty of hits, but they would literally just ping off the hull of Japanese ships. They would constantly fail to explode. Japanese torpedoes, on the other hand, all respect to the German U-boats, were the best in the world, full stop. Not even close. And this game does take that into account. So they would either engage American surface ships and usually do pretty well against them. They would bombard the Marines on Guadalcanal and shore bombardment. The Japanese weren't that good at that to start with at the beginning of the war. The Japanese cruiser and destroyer captains sort of saw shore bombardment as something that was kind of beneath them. The Japanese Navy was very, very good and very professional in the early parts of World War II, kind of elitist. And they would see things like ferrying troops or doing shore bombardment or defensive patrols as they would kind of look down their nose at this kind of work. Anti-submarine warfare, they never paid any attention to that, to their cost. Sometimes war is not very glorious, sometimes war is very boring. But you got to get good at this stuff where you're going to lose the war. The Japanese Navy is a great example of that. But they did get good at this until the American Marines at what was called Henderson Field, that's the airfield on Guadalcanal, could barely operate because they were being bombarded by these heavy Japanese surface warships almost every night. And the third thing that these Japanese ships would do is they would carry in troops. And they would get to the very northwestern tip there of Guadalcanal and they would start unloading Japanese troops onto the island. So, pretty much the first time we saw this kind of stuff in action was Savo Island. So this is the very northwestern tip of Guadalcanal, like I mentioned, and a nearby island called Savo Island. The table we're going to be playing on is outlined by that green rectangle. So this is where we see Macao's forces. He's got a heavy cruiser and light cruiser force. He passes these blue rectangles, which we will not have in our game. So the green rectangle is what we will have in the game. The blue rectangles are what we won't have in the game. They're passing down between Savo Island and Guadalcanal. There was a bunch of changes in Macao's plan. He was originally going to go north of Savo Island. I won't go into all the details. But he sees an opportunity to go between Savo Island and Guadalcanal and engage the Americans and their Australian allies in a surprise battle. The Americans and their Australian allies, I'll just call them the allies from now on, are really badly set up. They're divided in two forces, a southern force down in this area, and a northern force that's pretty much on defensive patrol. Their orders are to just steam in this square and make sure that no Japanese ships come down that area. The Japanese have already passed by the picket destroyers. They're now approaching the southern force. The overall commander here is a British admiral, Rear Admiral Victor Crutchley. He's aboard the Australian. He's sort of commanding His Majesty's Australian cruiser squadron. He's got two Australian cruisers. One of them is not here right now with him on board. He's been summoned to a conference from his boss, American Admiral Raymond Turner. And they're having a big meeting somewhere off the map, along with Marine General Alexander Vandergrift. So the top three guys, the top three Allied commanders, British, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marines are having a big discussion on Turner's flagship, and that's why we will see one of the Australian ships not on the table. We will have a dice roll to see if he returns. In his place, sadly for everybody who doesn't speak Japanese, the guy that's left in command is a guy named Captain Bode aboard USS Chicago. This guy doesn't do very well. Let's just leave it at that. Let's be polite to his family. He doesn't do very well. And he knows it too. At the end of this battle, he is one of the only cruiser commanders left alive. He commands the only American cruiser not sunk. And when he's still, part of the reason he survives is he more or less, left the battle. Didn't even leave any orders. He was the admiral in charge, or the acting admiral. He was only a captain, I believe, in rank. And when this battle was reviewed next year, the Navy seriously launched a major investigation here because this battle, as you're about to see, goes very, very badly. He winds up shooting himself in a Honolulu hotel room. He doesn't even do that right. He doesn't die. He shoots himself in the head. He doesn't die until the next day. So this poor bastard just, he's not, the less said the better. The only reason I go into all that, I'm not trying to, shame the guy or anything like that. But it does, when you see the opening conditions of this game, this explains why this game is so one-sided, because this game is going to try to at least somewhat recreate the Battle of Savo Island, and therefore the game has to go by the history. And the history is the Americans literally make every wrong decision, and the Japanese get complete surprise. In the beginning, like first 2 or 3 turns of this game are going to seem kind of weird because of it, and this way, you'll know the reason why. So now that I've babbled about all that, hello, John Sowerby, thanks for coming out. Oh, Rasmus says, hello, Pietro. I just had to run away for a few trying to barbecue and watch this. All right, we're about to get started here. Again, I apologize, everybody, for the rough start. We are going to edit that part out later, but I think we're up and stable now, and we're ready to get started. Real quick, these are the cards you get. I know they're going to be very, very tough to read on camera, so I also included them here in the spreadsheet so that we can at least sort of see, what these cards look like. You get one of these cards for every ship in your fleet. And here's where you track what weapons they have, what their firing arcs are, where their damage is. Basically, it's a little like Dark Star. For those of you who are familiar with that, it's just a lot simpler, thank goodness. Because a battle this size would take like a day to play in Dark Star. Here, we're going to wrap this up in a couple of hours, hopefully. So the Gunichi Makawa's flagship here is the Chokai. It's really the only modern cruiser he has. This thing is a beast. If you don't believe me, you can just look at let me zoom in a little bit here. You can just look at the point costs. Point costs, as we see in many games, is a number in the upper right-hand corner. So, 66 points for the Chokai, and everything else he has is no more than 34. He's got 2 Aoba-class heavy cruisers. He's got 2 Furutaka-class heavy cruisers. And then some little stuff, some light cruisers. And Japanese light cruisers, guys, are really light. Japanese light cruisers are more like glorified destroyers. And they're also old. So the only really good ship he has here is the Chokai. Old, again, Japanese Navy in 1942 is still pretty good. The Americans, sadly, are divided, like I said, in 2 pieces. We have task group 62.3. Part of Task Force 62, Commander of Southern Pacific, this is the Center Force, is Captain Frederick, I can't even pronounce that. I don't remember which ship he's aboard, but it doesn't matter, he's not the overall commander. But basically we have Astoria, Quincy, and Vincennes. These are 3 New Orleans-class heavy cruisers. These ships are pretty good, they're 34 points apiece. Nowhere near as good as Shokai, which is practically a pocket battleship. Although that's an exaggeration. And he's got 2 destroyers. Unfortunately for the Americans, the guy in command here is Howard D. Bode, who is aboard USS Chicago there, 36-point Northampton-class cruiser. He does have 1 Australian heavy cruiser with him, HMAS Canberra. That's the card there in orange. And our sister ship, HMAS Australia, is Victor Crutchley's flagship. So starting on like turn 5 or 6, we're going to start rolling d6s and see if he reappears. So I have his card, I have his ship in miniature, I'm ready to go. If he makes an appearance, it's not very likely. And if he does show up, he'll show up at the very end. Then he also has 2 destroyers there. And again, an overall command is Raymond Turner, who's not on the table. And again, we're waiting to see if Rear Admiral Victor Crutchley shows up, but we're going to see if he reappears. But again, that's going to be a die roll much later on in the game. So back to the camera. Here is our actual setup. North is this way. North is to the lower left. The tip of Savo Island, or kind of, I should say, the eastern edge of Savo Island. And this is the extreme northwestern tip of Guadalcanal. This is Bode and the Southern Force. Chicago, Canberra, that's an Australian ship, and his 2 destroyers. Over here, still sailing around pointlessly in that box defense formation that we were talking about before, are the Americans. We are looking at Vincennes, Astoria, and Quincy, along with their 2 screening destroyers. And they're not even all on the table yet, not even close, is the Japanese line. With Chokai in front, this is their historical formation, by the way. Chokai's in front, Keiko, Kinugasa are next. Next we have Aoba and Fubutaka. They're not even on the table yet. And then after all that gets on the table, there's 2 more light cruisers, Tenryu and Yubari. And after all that, there's 1 little destroyer just because. Unagi, I should say. Unagi. Sorry, I don't speak Japanese. Unagi is the name of the destroyer. Historically, Unagi never even got into the fight, so we'll see if he even makes it on the table this time. Crucially, this guy, Rear Admiral Mikawa, knows his business. He knows he's going to engage American ships later tonight. In fact, he's hoping to. So before the sun went down, or actually no, earlier in the night, he has launched float planes off of his heavy cruisers. So there is a small piece of Japanese aircraft on the table. They're biplanes. They're just going to drop some flares. That doesn't sound like a lot. Trust me, it's a lot. Because again, it's just after 1 in the morning. It's pitch black in the middle of the night. And things are going to get very, very hairy for the Americans very, very quickly. John says, oh Lord, the words Longlance are coming to mind. Yeah, we may have been talking about them right before you joined the stream. First of all, wow, we got 11 viewers. Thanks very much, everybody. Time to take notes of the IGN names. Yeah, if you want, I'll send you the list. These ships do tremendous damage in this battle. And it was proof that even after the disaster at Midway, the Japanese Navy was not playing games. All right, so what's actually happened here? I've actually done the first 2 turns already. And we're now going to start turn 3. The Japanese have complete surprise. The Americans have no idea, even though they have radar. I won't get into how this works. Okay, I will very, very quickly. Captain Bode believes he's almost ahead of his time, to his detriment. He believes that turning on his radar will give away his position. It is an active search system, but at the same time, it's not like this is 1975 and the Japanese have, passive sensors that are ready to detect enemy radar. He believes that, in the words of Drakenfeld, that radar works like a searchlight. And if you turn it on, you're going to see the enemy, but he's also going to see you. Ironically, in 1975, 1985, that's kind of true. But in 1942, that was absolutely not the case. So even though the Americans have a huge technological edge here in the form of surface search radar, they're afraid to turn it on. They're also convinced that the Japanese are not here, so they have no reason to turn it on. These Japanese search planes are now flying over the American fleet. One of them has his running lights on. He purposefully turns on his running lights saying, you know what, they're going to hear me anyway, and if I turn on my running lights, they're going to assume I'm a friendly. And guess what? It works. So these guys are basically sailing over the American fleet. La-di-da, whoop-de-doo. I dare you to shoot at me. In fact, I'm going to turn my headlights on and dare you to take a shot at me. And guess what? The Americans don't do it because they assume he's a friendly. The Americans are that convinced that the Japanese are nowhere near. They're about to learn otherwise to their cost. So the reason I go into all that detail is because to explain why we're going to skip the initiative phase, we're going to go straight into the prep phase here for Naval War. Now, I have the rule book for the original edition. I know a 1.5 has come out. I'm trying to use as many 1.5 rules as I can. I have the 1.5 cards. So basically, I'm playing with a lot of 1.5 rules. However, there will be some 1.0 rules in here, so I do apologize for that. Was his name was the commander named Castillo because he didn't play? No, this is I don't know if it's Juinichi or Kuagichi. Again, I don't speak Japanese. His last name was Makawa, and this guy is actually pretty good, as we're about to find out. Okay, so one of the things that you do initially when you're getting ready to play this game, or getting ready to start a turn, is you assign these order tokens that you see here. Okay, there's a whole system that determines whether or not, how many order tokens you get. Right, so you get one for your flagship, you get one for every squadron you have on your command that has at least 2 ships, and you get one for every large ship, one for every 2 medium ships, and so on. So the Japanese have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 2. So 1, 2, 3 for their actually 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 medium ships. And then they also get one for their commander. So here on the command station, hopefully you guys can see where I'm moving over there on the right-hand side of the screen. You actually get the rank of your commander. And these come in these little cards that go on your command station, on your command panel. This is where you handle all your orders and such. There's one for the Japanese, and there's one for the U.S. Navy. There's all kinds of special rules. Again, this stuff is all downloadable at naval-war.com. And this is where all that information is provided. I know it's not really visible here on camera. Also, it would slow the game down way too much if I explain like every line on those cards. But the first thing you do is you see how many order tokens you're going to get, not unlike a lot of games. The enemy does the same. When you figure out how much the enemy has, you take an equal number of disruption counters to the enemy's order tokens. So the Americans have, I think, 6 order tokens. Therefore, the Japanese will get 6 disruption counters, and I'll show you how those work in just a second. Meanwhile, the Japanese have 7 order tokens. The Americans kind of reverse that. Now, this is a special scenario rule. The Americans cannot spend any order tokens until they are fired on by the Japanese. They have no idea the Japanese are here. So, long story short, by hook or by crook, the Japanese are going to get the first big swing at the Americans. So we're assuming the Japanese have already won initiative. They are therefore going to choose to take the first action. Okay, and they are going to take an action with their. Let me see if this is possible here. Launch aircraft, call on air support, search for submarines. Okay, cool. So there's direct activations, there's advanced activations, there's reaction activations, there's timed activations, and then after that there's indirect activations. So we'll go through all that as we go. Right now, we're going to start the battle with what the Japanese did historically. These float planes are going to drop flares. The American fleet is now illuminated. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that yet. I'm going to just go with movement. Okay, Ben is with us. Thanks very much. Again, thanks very much, John. Thanks very much, Rasmus. Thanks very much, Piotr. Thanks very much, Jen. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Interesting, you are going to lose orders as the forces get whittled down. Then you get token squadrons over a certain... Yep. That's definitely how it works. Also, your commander can be sunk if his flagship gets sunk and he doesn't successfully switch command. Historically, that happens to neither side. We'll see if that happens today. So, we're going to go ahead and do movement here. I got to think how I do this so I don't screw it up like I did with the Russians. My first turn of Naval Command. I'm sorry, my first turn of 7 days at the River Rhine. Because I got to get this right. I have to kind of predict where the Americans are going to be. All right, so the movement for here is up to 10. We're not going to go that fast. We're actually going to slow down a little bit for the Japanese. I'm going to slow things down to 8. I'm going to slow it down, to 8, maybe more to 6. All right, so I'm going to slow down to 6. You have to move at least half of your movement before you make a turn. So Chokai's going to wind up like this. Keiko's going to wind up, I can't really do that, like that. Kinugasa. I'm actually kind of cheating there. Let me not do that. All right. And here comes another Japanese heavy cruiser. Sorry about that, everybody. This is tough to do with a headset on, especially when it gets hung up on the table. All right, the Americans still blissfully unaware anything's wrong. They are still kind of cruising at half speed. So half speed is, normally this game is played in centimeters. I'm just making it to inches because I'm using very large miniatures. 1 to 1800 is kind of the biggest miniature you can use with this game. And that's literally going to be about it. So the Japanese spent 1 order on maneuver. They spent 1 order on... Really, that's it. Let me see what else. Flank speed, no. Evasive action, no. Veteran commanders. I'm just looking at the card here. No air attack, no maneuver activation. Okay. We're going to go straight to turn. We're going to go straight to the next turn. So, okay, turn. That was actually turn 3. We're now going to start turn 4. So we're going to start off with, again, the Japanese have initiative. So the beginning of turn 4, the Japanese, again, this is the first time I've played this game in about 5 years. So the Japanese are going to spend an order on special action torpedo run. Activate a squadron for a maneuver, so the whole squadron gets to move. It may afterwards perform a torpedo attack, but cannot launch more than 1 bank per ship. Normally, the Americans would get to try and disrupt this if they wanted to, but again, right now, they don't know the Japanese are there. Half movement. Half movement. Because I anticipate the Americans are going to be further out that way. So the Japanese are kind of doing a little bit of an S-turn here. The Japanese are still bringing on light cruisers. Okay, the Americans are starting their turn because they're doing this loop like we showed on the other map until they know the Japanese are there. Okay, now we're gonna. Actually, I should have already done this. All right, we're now gonna launch the torpedo run. So let me put the torpedo markers where they're supposed to be. I do apologize. I kind of screwed that up already. Torpedoes are launched off the side of the ship because these are surface warships. The Americans have already moved, so I already know where they're going to be. I have to kind of stay within 45 degrees of the center point of the ship there. Focusing fire. Okay. The Americans can only do indirect actions because they don't know the fight's on yet, and that sounds kind of incredible. But again, either watch the Drac episode on this or read about it in an article or a book somewhere. It is crazy how surprised the Americans were here. All right, Japanese are going to spend the next order on air attacks. So air attacks, not really an attack. They're going to drop flares. Okay, so now the American fleet is illuminated. The Japanese fleet is not. So there's two ways you can attack at night. Actually, three. Eventually, you can attack with radar-controlled gunnery, which, again, neither side really has right now. But that's okay. You know what? Let's back... I know I'm jumping all over the place. Since I don't want the Americans to get completely cheesed out, the Americans are going to spend some of their orders on their industrial powerhouse special rule. I'm going to spend all this time I can't spend activations. I'm just going to imagine that there is an officer aboard the deck of aboard the bridge of USS Chicago. He is spending, since he can't spend it on anything else anyway, and I don't want the Americans to get completely cheesed out by my bullshit, scenario special rules here. They are going to spend the maximum number. They're going to spend the full amount that's required, I should say, to activate one of their faction special rules, so to speak. Radar-assisted firing solution. So I know you can't probably see this here, but we're looking at 4 stars here. That means I have to spend 4 orders. Normally, that's a very expensive investment. That's more than half your orders in a single turn. The Americans can't spend any orders right now anyway. So they're going to go ahead and basically turn their radars on. Now I got to find the rules about that. The ship may ignore the penalties and range restrictions for cover, bad weather, and smoke. It also ignores the +1 target score for night actions. Okay, so we're already giving the Americans a slight break. The Americans just activated their radar-controlled gunnery, which I'm not sure if every ship in this American fleet had radar-controlled gunnery. I don't think they did, but I'm just going by the faction rules that are presented in the game. So the Americans just got a little bit of an upgrade, because trust me, they're getting shafted every other way. And by shafted, holy crap. They just got illuminated. The Japanese are not illuminated. Historically, the American gunners are now all blinded. They've just lost their night vision because these flares just dropped right in front of them. Japanese night vision is perfect. And they're also not, they're not revealed themselves because they did not turn on their searchlights. That's where I got sidetracked about the radar. There's 3 ways you can kind of attack with gunnery at night. Radar, dropping flares, or turning on your searchlights. And those are in descending equality, so to speak. So the best option is to use radar-controlled gunnery, obviously. Dropping flares from a plane is better because the enemy is illuminated and you are not. If you turn on searchlights, the enemy knows where you are. Trust me. All that said, the Japanese are about to... So these torpedoes are launched and on their way. They hit at the end of the turn, so I haven't forgotten about them. The Japanese are about to reveal their position, not with searchlights, but with muzzle flashes. So open fire, open fire, open fire, forward guns, open fire, forward guns, open fire. Yeah, there's a lot about to kick off here. Okay. So here we go. Let's see what's going on here. I just watched The Gallant Hours last night. Jim, you are doing awesome. It's tough playing, remembering rules, and running a stream all at the same time. Thanks very much. Sitrep Podcast. Can I ask who this is? Is this either Bill or Marty? But in any event, I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, here we go, Rasmus. Boom Boom is right. All right, so yeah, the Americans are about to get hella pounded. Good news for Captain Bode. He might get to die in combat this time instead of shooting himself in a Honolulu hotel room. Because, holy balls, he's about to get lit up. Alright. Get no disrespect to the town of Chicago. It just happened to be the name of the ship. And he's commanded by a truly bad officer. Okay, so. Okay, my first fire phase on this game in a while. Okay, we'll do Chokai first. Chokai is going to go ahead and fire a full broadside, clearly. Okay, I have rate of fire. Where's my rate of fire? Okay, there we go. I have 3 rate of fire on the front, 3 rate of fire on the back. So it's a grand total of 6 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These all do 1 firepower, right? Okay, I do have to roll them separately because some of these guns have different armor piercing values. Otherwise, I would just fire my secondary batteries now as well. This thing has 8-inch guns. Oh, 3-2. Sorry, I almost ripped off one of his forward batteries. Sorry. Okay, yeah, Chokai is a 66-point ship. That's her card right there. She is. I know you guys probably can't read that. This is a serious beast. Definitely. This is the lead Japanese ship. Easily twice as powerful as anything else on the table. So, yeah. The Americans are going to lose this battle. The victory conditions are if the Americans sink a single Japanese ship, they win. The Japanese have to sink all the American cruisers, except for maybe one, because historically USS Chicago survived. Have to sink or cripple every American cruiser minus one, while not losing a single cruiser themselves. Some Japanese cruisers historically were slightly damaged, but not very much. Okay, so I will have to roll primary and secondary guns separately because they have different armor penetration values. Okay, so here are the main guns. Let me look through the modifiers. Oh, there we go. Target is unable to move. No, within short range. So -1 difficulty for that. Over 60. Nope. Ooh. Oh. Okay. So normally you have to get a ranging shot first. However, according to the rules I have, ranging shots are not required when at close range. So he gets to ignore that negative penalty. Target is lit by or uses a searchlight. No worries. All right, so everybody has an automatic +1 penalty to shoot because it's a night battle. He is illuminated. The Americans are illuminated. They get a -1. So it basically cancels out the night penalty. So they only get the -1 to their target based on the fact that they are point blank. Well, damn near point blank. Okay, USS Chicago has a target score of 5. I have to roll a 5+. And I get to subtract 1 from that target, so now I need a 4+. Let me check the Japanese card here and see if there's any other actions I can do. Okay, the Americans haven't been technically fired on yet, so they can't disrupt these orders. I'm going to roll the stroke of luck rule. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to save that. If I roll badly, I'm going to use the stroke of luck rule. I'm going to go ahead and declare that up front. Okay, the Japanese have no attrition yet. So I take that back. I'm going to use the veteran ship crew special rule if I roll badly. Select a friendly ship. This ship may re-roll all missed hits. All right, so here comes the Chokai's special... here comes the Chokai's primary gunnery. I need 4 ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the Japanese are going to spend an order on veteran ship crews. Select a friendly ship. This ship may re-roll all missed hits. Now they're all hits. Holy crap, Chicago. I'm very sorry. You guys can read those dice. I select big chunky dice on purpose so you guys can read them on camera. Yeah. Oh, hi, Bill. Thanks very much. All right, cool. So, my apologies to the city of Chicago. It's not your fault that the ship just happened to carry that name. Okay, so then you roll a d20 to see where those hits are going to land. And yes, you do roll this before you do armor checks because it depends on where the ship is hit. The ship's armor is going to be thicker in some parts than others. So this whole volley pretty much just hit in area number 9, which is the engine room. Okay, so they kept their guns nice and low. Reduce armor rating by 1 for shots at extreme range. This is not extreme range because, no plunging fire. All right, never mind. This is definitely going to be normal armor activation. USS Chicago has an armor rating of 5. That's actually pretty good. Unfortunately, the power of these main guns is 9. So the difference between 4 and 9 is 4. Let me look up a quick detail. Do you have to tie or do you have to beat the power of the gun on the armor save? This is going to be kind of important, guys. I want to make sure I get this right. Defender checks the armored score on his ship. He checks the hit location and any modifiers. He now rolls armor dice and adds the ship's armor is equal to or higher to. Okay, cool. So basically, they need the power of a Japanese gun is 9. The Chicago has to get a 9 on her D6s to defeat the shells coming in. They get to add 5. That's the armor rating of the ship. So, long story short, take your second shot. They need to roll 4 ups. Because 4 plus 5 equals 9. Yeah, 4 ups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 8 hits. 4 ups. Oh, shit, Chicago, go, man. Only 3 failed the armor. All right, so only 3 hits get through. So that is 3 hits on the hit location table. Ooh, hella glare. Sorry about that. So we already rolled row 9, so that's 3 hits in the engine room. We're going to go ahead and assess that stuff. So 9 was the propeller shaft has been hit. So that's going to be 3 hits on the engine for USS Chicago. I don't want to mark up these cards, so I'm just going to put 3 hits. Use these little markers my girlfriend gave me. Yeah, she's dead in the water. She now has a speed of 0. And she has taken 3 hull points. I had a pencil. What the hell did I do with it? Turns out I will have to mark up these cards a little bit. So hopefully I can erase this later. Chicago just took 1, 2, 3 hull points. All right. She's already about to have to make a morale check. So that happened. No flooding. Okay, so let me quickly move along because things are getting a little slow here. Okay, secondary batteries for the Chokai. I'm looking now at 5-inch guns, broadside. I have a total of four guns. These are the little 5-inchers. All right, 4 guns. That is 3 hits. They are going to land in, number 18. Primary weapons. I just knocked out some of their guns. Oh, and by the way, guys, this is not like Dark Star, where all damage takes effect at the end of the turn. All this shit is instantaneous. Okay, so the good news for the Chicago is that these guns are a lot smaller. Their power is only a 7. So 5. Man, the Chicago is heavily armored. Holy crap. So basically only ones will get through. Nope, those shells all bounce off Chicago's armor. All right, cool. You know what? They're going to spend another one of their order tokens to reroll misses. There's only 1 miss, but I don't care. I want it. It didn't work. Okay. So I just kind of wasted an order token. Okay, the Chicago again needs fours to defeat on armor. 3 of them were defeated on. Oh wait, there's 4 hits. Good grief! Go Chicago! They literally just shrugged off all those rounds. All right. Nevertheless, next Kinugasa, same thing. How can Kinugasa and the Yoba? Oh, I just fired the wrong ship. Okay, that was Kinugasa. Now I will fire the Keiko. Slightly different class of cruiser. We'll see if it would have even made a difference. 8-inch guns, I know that. 2 and 3. No, it would. They have the same battery of 8-inch guns, so it wouldn't have mattered. Re-roll because I'm going to spend veteran crew status. Yeah, the Japanese are using up a lot of their orders on this one big, slam right off the top. That's going to be 5 hits, 4 ups for the Chicago's armor save. 1, 2, 3 hits. And that's going to be in number 4. Number 4 is superstructure. Oh, the bridge. We just hit the bridge. Armor rolls always fail on a 1 or a 2. Damage is capped at 2 damage per hit. It only does 1 damage per hit. Anyway, that was another. What was that? 3 hits? 1, 2, 3 hits. Yep. All right, cool. And now the bridge is hit. I doubt it, but let me just go through the motions here. See if this and this cruiser can hit with any secondary weapons. Probably not. Oh, they'll hit fine, but they won't. Oof, no, they won't. But they won't. Okay, that's 3 hits. Again, I think I literally need 1s to get through Chicago's armor with 5-inch guns. Hell no. All right, just want to make sure. All right, so that's another 3 hits on Chicago's hull. 1, 2, 3. Those shells were a little too high. So they hit the bridge, but these are only 8-inch guns, so it's telling me that there's no additional effect. So yeah, the bridge structure is messed up. Okay, it says bridge structure, so I may not have hit the actual bridge itself. I might have hit the conning tower that the bridge is sitting in. But no worries. The Americans are going to have to make a command check anyway because they just passed a certain point in their hull points. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about super fast. So if I go to a more expanded view of the ship cards, you start taking points on the hull, and when you pass one of these X's here, you have to make a command check. Meanwhile, all 3 of these engine boxes have been knocked out, and yeah, long story short, the Chicago has seen better days already. And she's about to get hit by a torpedo spread as well. All right. But again, Chicago's dead in the water. The rest of the American fleet did first they tried an evasive action. It didn't work. Then they tried flank speed, which did work because they beat the Japanese disruption check, and they basically moved her around this way. The Japanese just tried evasive action. The Americans tried to disrupt it. The Americans beat the Japanese beat the American disruption check, so this evasive action order does go through. Okay, so that takes care of that. Japanese have 1 order token left. The Americans have 3 because they weren't able to spend them in so long. All right, the Americans are actually going to try and shoot back a little bit. Actually, no, the Americans are going to do another flank speed order on their other squadron. There are 2 American squadrons here. Sorry about the blowing, everybody. I have to have some fan. Okay, so again, 15. The Americans have to kind of uncoil this. and set flank speed toward the Japanese. I'm going to use superior optics, and the Americans will now try to, just so I don't slow the game down. The Americans spend their last two disruption counters to try and disrupt that. No, so the Japanese have to roll above a 2, a 4, so it doesn't work. So superior optics basically means I get to extend my range, especially at night. All right, the Americans now have 2 orders left. They are going to spend on... Okay, number 1. Keeper afloat. Repair 1 point of hull damage from a friendly small ship. On a medium ship or large ship, repair D3 points of damage. Wow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try that. Try and get the Chicago going again. All right, the Japanese have no disruption tokens left. This is American damage control, which, as we all know, is really awesome. All right, so 1d6 repair points. They get to repair 2 points of damage on the 2 hull points of damage on the Chicago. So I'm going to carefully erase 2 hull points. I think she's still screwed. She's about ready to get hit by a crap ton of torpedoes. All right, and now the Americans are going to spend their last order to finally open fire. All right, cool. So the Chicago still has her guns left. It's -1 for night. They're going to fire back at the Chokai. So first, obviously the Chicago. Chicago is going to fire at the Chokai. The target score is a 5+. Make that a 6+. I think they get to subtract 1 because they are close. +1 for night, -1 for close. It stays at a 5. Which reminds me, I may have been ripping off the Japanese. The Chicago should be in even worse shape right now. So I don't think I gave the Japanese... okay, they don't need a ranging shot. Because again, they're within point blank range. Within point blank range. Target has performed evasive. Aha! Half dice. Alright, so the Chicago just lost half her dice. Alright, so now I'm talking about the Chicago, which has a total of, rate of fire please, 5 and 2 for 8-inch guns, makes a total of 7. Round up 4. If you cut it in half, you round up. Target to hit is a 5+. Only 1 hit. Chokai's armor is a 5 versus the 9. Again, it's a 4 up to see if the armor holds. 5, the armor does hold. Okay, most other ships do not have line of sight because they cannot shoot through the Chicago. For what it's worth, that lead American destroyer, USS Oriskany, just kidding, USS Helm, is going to... Actually, she's going to fire torpedoes. And I just now realized I used up all my torpedo tokens. Okay, no worries. We're just going to put a dice there to signify that they have fired torpedoes. Nobody else can fire because they would hit the Chicago. Which, by the way, did happen. One of those 2 American destroyers there, historically, accidentally torpedoed HMAS Canberra in her starboard side in real life. We're going to try to avoid doing that. Yes, it is possible for you to torpedo yourself in this game. We're going to try not to do that. Okay, so now we're going to go to... now that everyone's used up all their activations, we go to Indirect Actions, which is pretty much stuff that happens automatically. Even if you don't have any order tokens left. So I'm going to look that up super fast. All right, Indirect Actions, please. Where are they? Okay. Repeat fire. Any ship that hasn't fired yet and has ranged in on the target can now shoot. Okay, so that's nobody. Any weapons with rapid fire can now fire on any target. Let me see if that American destroyer has rapid guns. Ooh, Chicago also has some, because she's lost some of her 5-inch guns. One of her 5-inch gun turrets has been knocked down. So she has... Now you're asking why I would do this? Because I can't get through. If Chicago gets a hit, even with her 5-inch guns, which are not going to get through Chokai's armor, she's now considered ranged in. Which means next turn she doesn't have to cut her dice in half. Oh, but she's not doing that because she's close range. Okay, never mind. It's evasive action I'm thinking of. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Evasive action, cut that down to 3. That is only 1 hit. Does not get through the armor. Alright, rapid fire on the Helm's guns. USS Helm has... When I get done with this fire phase, everybody, I will catch up with the chat. Rare, I'm hoping? Yes. Rapid fire, 4 dice total, half for evasive action. 2 dice. They both missed. Those guys were too far away. And, alright, cool. So now we're at the end phase. End phase is when you bring in torpedoes. Those torpedoes the Japanese fired earlier, now is when they're going to hit. So, John, this is where we were talking about your long-range torpedoes you mentioned. So you kind of replace these. I'll go ahead and put in USS Helm's torpedoes now. And then, if you have long-range torpedoes, you get to add this. The extended range. So one of Chokai's torpedoes might hit USS Wilson way over here, but they're probably going to hit USS Chicago. Okay, so I was only able to fire 1 bank of torpedoes because of that special move I used, where I fired and moved and launched torpedoes in the same turn. Nevertheless, that's going to be a bank of torpedoes, and Chokai's rate of fire on her bank of torpedoes is... these cards are a little small. Sometimes it's tough to read them. Rate of fire of 4. So that's a 4. 2 torpedoes on each side. She is covered by... Okay, so how you do it, guys, I'll just explain it super fast. Total number of torpedoes that Chokai fired is 4. You put 2 on the left-hand side of the template, 2 on the right-hand side of the template. Okay, and after that, you have to start actually figuring out who hits what. All right? Oh, it looks like Chicago's going to be taking all the torpedoes. So now I have to roll to see if they hit. I'm going to spend this order token now on the veteran ship crews. So any misses, I'm going to re-roll. It doesn't matter. I only missed twice. And I still missed. Okay, so it wound up not making a difference. Ooh, there was a -1 for the ship being unable to move because she's dead in the water. But the lowest roll I got before, the highest roll I got before was a 3. That was still a miss. 5 minus 4, 5 minus 1 is a 4. That third shot still missed. So she just got hit with 2 torpedoes. Torpedoes are nasty. This is what's going to finish off Chicago. Torpedoes have a power of 13 versus the armor of 5. You literally can't beat. You can't roll an 8. However, a 6 always succeeds, so I'm still going to go ahead and roll. 1 torpedo fails to detonate. Because that's 6, that's still an armor save, even though it's an impossible roll. 6 is always an armor save. Alright, so that's going to be a grand total of 1 torpedo hit. It does damage of 5 in location, what is that, 16? Secondary weaponry. Oh, that's kind of stinks. Random 2 or 3 system disabled. Really? That's it? Okay, well, it does do 1 piece of flooding damage. So I'm going to put 1 flood counter here on USS Chicago. That was kind of terrible. But, oh, well, there's more torpedoes coming in. Random 2nd or tertiary system damaged. There's only one secondary system there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and knock that off. Okay. Next group of torpedoes. Those all missed. Come on, Japanese. Only half of those torpedoes are going to hit because of where she's sitting. Okay, those were both hits. All right, because the ship is unable to move. All right, armor saves. One of those failed to detonate. Jesus. Chicago's proving a lot tougher than she's supposed to be. Okay, number one, super. Oh, wait. Okay, torpedoes are different. In case of torpedo hits, treat all rolls as 1 through 5 as waterline compartment hits. Okay, so number 5 does 5 points of damage. So you see how many points of damage that your weapon causes? There's 3 basic columns: 1 to 2, 3 to 5. Sorry, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 plus. You roll a d20 to see where it hits. You cross-reference that, and that's what happens. So a 5-point hit in what is going to be considered waterline compartment damage. Okay, that's not clear, because it can do either in compartments or waterline compartments. Okay, it is clear. Sorry. D3 flooding tokens. It does 2 more flooding tokens. All right, and then that's it. Okay. Those other 2, I'm just looking at the template. Or those 2 are too far away. The left hand 2 from Kinugasa. So it's going to be no more Japanese torpedo hits. That wraps up the end phase. Okay, now we apply damage effects. Damage effects are the continuing damage caused by fire and flooding. The Chicago has 3 flooding markers on her. 1, 2, 3. 1 more point and she's crippled. When she's crippled, she can do nothing. She's lost power. She cannot fire her guns or anything. She already can't move. And that's going to wrap up turn 1. I'm going to catch up with chat now, because holy crap. All right, there's a lot going on here, guys. Sorry about all that. Cool. Again, thanks very much for coming out. Seatown is in trouble, says Rasmus. Absolutely. The Chicago is going to stagger out of the line. Chicago has pretty much already dead in the water. She has no movement. Japanese use fair fortune. Yeah, that's right. They do. They actually do have that rule. Chi-Town is bringing out all her guns. What guns she has left? She still has all her primary weapons. She has lost a lot of her secondary armament. And she is 1 point away. She's literally filled in all of her hull points. Right beneath that, she would be crippled. Once she's crippled, she can fire no guns at all. This might be the reason she made it out of the real battle. Yeah, in the real battle, she just turned west. She turned this way, off the right-hand side of the table, and just said, "Peace out." Again, this is why the captain was sort of investigated afterwards, and things didn't go well for him. How's it going, AM? Oh, I am wargaming a 2030 battle between the U.S. Pacific and the PRC over the Solomon Islands. Nice. Although they don't seem to like us in the Solomon Islands lately. They actually threw us out of there. They refused to let a British ship dock, and they refused to let an American ship dock there recently. We have played closer to the shores of the PRC in the past, says Rasmus. Absolutely. Oh, so John says, yeah, the decision in the Solomons was odd this week. Yeah, John's talking about what I was mentioning a second ago. U.S. Coast Guard and Royal Navy both got screwed. Chicago strong, says Sitrep Podcast. Definitely stronger than she's supposed to be. She actually weathered the big Japanese Sunday punch. And I mean, she's still screwed. She's crippled. She's 1 point away. Well, she's immobilized. She's 1 point away from crippled. She's lost half her secondary guns. Yeah. But she's probably going to get one good swing on the Japanese next turn. Some of these cruisers got their bow shot off and they patched them together with logs and such. Yeah, you're talking about USS New Orleans at the Battle of Tassafaranga. She literally had the front quarter of the ship blown clean off. The ship ends right before a turret. There's a famous photo. You can find it online. Just look up USS New Orleans. Heavy cruiser USS New Orleans. It's a hell of a picture. And that ship did survive. This is how you can tell Jim is really into the game. He doesn't even take a break to breathe or take a drink. Am I puffing into the camera? Sorry. Can you shoot guns and torpedoes in the same order? I don't know, to be honest. I don't think so. I could be wrong. Oh, I'm still on the Excel sheet. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. That was from a while ago. It's proof that Jen's not watching the stream. But that's okay. Or at least not monitoring the stream. No worries. Okay, so we're going to begin turn 2. Okay, everyone now knows there's a fight on. So we're going to go ahead and roll some initiative. D6. This is turn 5. Let me start a little turn counter here. The first 3 turns kind of took place before the stream even started. We just finished up I said turn 1, but I should have said it was turn 5, turn 4. We're now beginning turn 5. So the reason I say all that is you roll D6s for initiative. If there's a tie, it automatically goes to the side that didn't have it last turn. It's not just a reroll. However, the Japanese do win initiative. All right, cool. Awesome. So the Americans are going to go. Well, we'll get to all that. All right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to. Order tokens should still be the same. Order and disruption tokens should still be the same. Let me get that set up. 1 for flagship. 1 for the admiral. 1 for the squadron. 1, 2, 3 for medium ships. 7 medium ships. Yes, they are all finally on the table. I'm just going to put them here because it's causing less damage that way. All right. All right. Cool. This is no longer taking effect. That no longer takes effect. All right, everything is set up. Oh, I never resolved Bagley's torpedoes. Or I'm sorry, USS Helm's torpedoes. All right, backups real quick to turn 4. Let me not cheese out the Americans here. The Americans might get lucky and score a torpedo hit. They literally need a 6. How many torpedoes does USS Helm have? USS Helm has, her torpedo bank has a rate of fire of 4. Maybe a little bit more precise here. So he would have fired his torpedoes like that, so as not to torpedo his own guy. I'm not going to go get the token again, or the template again, but it pretty much does this. So he's going to catch 2 from the left side and 1 from the right side. So 3 torpedoes out of the 4 could possibly hit. Again, they need 6s. And they don't get it. You know what? I'm going to give the American that 4th torpedo, and it still misses. Okay, cool. Back on turn 5. Japanese have the initiative. They want to spend the first action. Yes, they do want to spend the first action. Okay. Order on... Actually, 2 orders. Open fire and a veteran ship crew for the Chokai. Because I gotta knock this stupid ship out here. All right. Point blank, illuminated by Japanese search planes. So, point blank and can't shoot. So the target number for USS Chicago is normally a 5, just dropped to a 3. Chokai still has all of her guns. Rate of fire 3, rate of fire 3, Rate of fire 2. It's a total of 8 total dice. Oop. I'm sorry if you guys hear like an occasional thump. There's this little thing on my mic cord. I can't use the wireless mic anymore. It's getting too much crackle from the other electronic devices in the house. This is the lesser of two evils. Okay, so Chokai is opening fire against the Chicago again at point blank range. Chance to hit was a 3. Okay, and I did spend the reroll. It's expensive because it costs a whole order token, and it's not for the whole squadron. It costs me 1 order to fire for the whole squadron. It costs me 1 order point to reroll for a single ship. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. It's 4 up to shrug it off for the Japanese, for the Chicago. Oh, Chicago, your luck just ran out. Your luck just ran out. That's the only one that's saved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just for fun, let's see where that was. 20. Hey, primary weapons, magazine hit. Yeah, you just lost all your guns, and the ship broke in half and sank. Because that was another 6 hull points of damage. Chicago only has 3 hull points left, so she's just sank 4 times over. Boom. Okay. Where is my stupid stick? Okay. Still blocked, because there's nothing else to shoot at. Still blocked. You know what? Aft guns are going to go ahead and take a poke at Canberra down there. Not within point blank range, I don't think. No, just outside of point blank range. All right, so I don't get that bonus, which means I have to get a range shot. So it's half my gunnery, half it again for a ranging shot. It literally has 1 dice. So here's where you start using your secondary guns just as ranging shots. All right, so Kinugasa's aft primary guns actually hit with a 5. Okay, armor save does succeed. However, you put a splash marker next to Canberra, show that she is ranged in. Kinugasa has found the range. Secondary guns. Now I don't have to have, because I have found the range. Although that rule only applies for Kinugasa, I have to keep track of that. 1 is hit. Again, I think it only penetrates on a 1. Nope. Aoba, forward guns only. And she's not ranged in. Kinugasa is. Those ships do not share that data. So I have to again have. So it's 2 and 2. Reduced to 2, reduced to 1. And it misses. Furutaka is. Yeah. Okay, Furutaka hits. Does not. Does save. Let's see where. Number 19. Primary weapons again. Primary weapon system. Okay, so Furutaka just launched one of her forward 8-inch shells on HMAS Canberra and knocked out one of her guns. One of her primary gun turrets. So let me see which one. Yeah, you roll randomly forward or aft. Odds for forward. Aft. Okay, cool. And that's it for the first Japanese activation. Let me check the chat. Oh no, poor Chicago. I'm going to stick on Buck Rogers if you're mean to his hometown. If the U.S. troops on top not fire with the... then the U.S. torpedoes on the top... Oh yeah, you're right. I caught up with that. Yeah, we did... that little torpedo marker that's there next to USS Helm is left over from last turn. We did resolve those torpedoes, and they did unfortunately miss. Okay, so now the Americans are going to spend another one on flank speed. Where's flank speed? The Japanese are going to try and disrupt that with 3 order tokens. This is on that squadron down there. They failed to defeat the Japanese disruption, so the order is disrupted. What happens? The maneuver happens without the added bonus. So basically, they give the order for flank speed. Somebody in the engine room didn't hear it, and they just move at normal speed. They don't stop, but they no longer get the movement bonus. So Patterson's in the lead. Over to the Japanese order. Do the Japanese ships have any stuff that has rapid fire? Yeah, a lot of their secondary guns. Ooh, I don't even have like the combat music playing. Not that it super matters, but just to make things cool. Now I can get rid of this. Thanks, everybody. All right, Japanese, what are you going to do now? Actually, I'm not going to use flank speed because I'll really run myself off the table. There is a limit to how sharp you can turn. And don't want to collide with the Americans. Also, those American and Australian ships up there have not yet fired. So I don't want to get too close. Well, I'm already going to get close to them. But I can't, the rules don't allow me to just jackknife turn immediately. And if I turn this way, I'll wind up hitting the island. Never end your fucking movement phase, pointing the planet. Everyone knows this. No, Japanese actually have a little bit of a tough spot here. They're going to go ahead and spend their order token to maneuver. All right, I'm going to have to be kind of careful here. Sorry for the puff. I thought I was keeping that under control this time. I'm assuming that I just pulled off a instead of a basic maneuver, I'm going to spend flying speed. We're going to see if the Americans can disrupt that. Come on, Americans, get a break. The Japanese have to roll above a 3 to make this happen. They get a 3 exactly, so they do not beat the American disruption check. All right, so he was here. I gotta do this over now. Pretty please. Oh, do it this way. So 5 inches, then he can make a 90-degree turn. He winds up right here. Ooh. Yeah, the Japanese maneuver did not quite work. Chokai is going to get hammered pretty bad here. Here's the good news for the Japanese. All their ships are finally on the table. Little Unagi finally appears. That's not there right now. Okay, the Americans spend an order. Turn on their searchlights. Okay, so now the Japanese, we'll say the 1, 2, 3, we'll say the front 3 Japanese ships are now illuminated. Okay, over to the Japanese turn. Evasive action. Americans will spend 3 more order tokens to try and slow that down. The evasion order does not get through. The Japanese do not beat the American disruption check. Okay, the Americans are doing a little bit better now. Back over to the American turn. Normal maneuver. I don't think I get to retry evasive action. I know you can only give a ship a single order once. Since that order didn't happen, I honestly don't know if I get to try again. If it had succeeded, I know you don't get to do it again. I honestly don't know. I don't think you do. Okay, the Japanese are going to spend an order on Chokai's port's starboard side torpedoes. Good night, Canberra. God bless this thing. All right. Back over to the American turn. They have 2 order tokens left. The Americans are going to try evasive action. The Japanese have 2 disruption dice left. They're going to try and disrupt that. They do beat the disruption, so the evasive action does happen. All right, luck is definitely starting to turn here. There's just too much firepower, too much armor. I mean, Chokai's in a bad spot, gunnery-wise, but she's up against... Canberra's pretty tough. She's an 8-inch gun-heavy cruiser. These 2 little destroyers, not so much. All right, last Japanese order. Ooh, I just found it. Stealthy approach. Select a friendly ship that has not yet... Ooh, it has not yet fired this turn. Okay, Chokai has fired. Okay, never mind. That's not going to help. All right, I'm not going to slow down the game at all. The Americans are going to spend their last activation on some torpedo runs. If there's one thing destroyers are good for in World War II, it's firing torpedoes. Point-blank torpedo spreads. Reduce the safety range on all our weapons to 0. Oh boy. Alright, there is a limited number of torpedoes. Oh, wait a minute. Helm might not get to shoot those torpedoes. You may have already used those. And no, you don't get to roll the ship like you do in Darkstar. Oh, she has 1 bank of torpedoes left. Okay, cool. This is the last of... Let me keep track of this. This is the last of Helm's starboard side torpedoes. This is Wilson's. Wilson's going to fire both banks, so now both American destroyers here are out of starboard side torpedoes. That's going to be 3 torpedo banks. 1, 2, and a third, because he fired 1 last turn. So he has 1 left. She saws both of his left. They're not going to get a better shot than this. That's going to be a total of 3 torpedoes. 3 torpedo spreads, I should say. All right, and Canberra's going to fire her guns. All right, so here we go. Canberra fires her guns. Unfortunately, she's already lost 1 of her aft turrets, so she only has 6 total dice left. See if the Australians can save this battle. That's not bad. Point blank range, they are illuminated with searchlights, so that's going to be a grand total of... So it starts off at a 5, goes down to a 4, no night bonus, no other bonuses, no other modifiers. Cool. So they're caught in Australian searchlights and American searchlights, so they don't have to suffer the night penalty. They're point blank, they get the point blank shooting bonus. So the target number for Chokai goes from a 5 to a 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. They're point blank range, so the Canberra does not have to range in. So she gets to keep all those hits, all that dice. That's going to be a grand total of 4 hits. Canberra has a power of 9 8-inch guns. 8-inch guns have a power of 9, I should say. Chokai has a power of 8. Sorry, an armor of 5? Yes. Alright, so that means that 4 ups to defeat the armor. Ooh, let me see where it hit. You have to check that first. 4. Because different parts of the ship have different armor. Superstructure. Armor always fails on a 1 or a 2. Okay, no changes to the armor rating. Alright, so it's a 4 up. 2 armor saves, 2 armors do not save, so that's going to be 2 hits. Alright, we've actually hit a Japanese ship for a change. Japanese ship has actually taken damage in her superstructure. That was a 4, so no additional effect. Alright, so that still is 2 hull damage points on the Chokai. Alright, now for all these little ships. This is both American destroyers. You said 4 is the hit, right? Yep. And these are 5-inch guns, so 1's to penetrate. Oh, one of them did. But was it this destroyer or this destroyer? Because someone just knocked out one of Chokai's gun turrets. 6. It was this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So USS Helm, who shouldn't be there, because again, Helm and Wilson were with this squadron. I think Bagley and Patterson were with this one. So I got those screwed up. Okay, we're done with all our direct orders. We're now going on to indirect orders. Repeat fire, no. Continuing compulsory movement, he already moved at flank speed. So nothing happens there. Or not at flank speed, he just did a normal maneuver. Already maneuvered. Everybody here already fired. So repeat fire doesn't apply. Already fired all secondary guns that can come to bear. They fired everything. Damage control. There is no flooding or fire on any ships. Going through the orders in my head. Indirect actions. Rally, air, damage control, compulsory movement, repeat fire, rapid fire. Okay, cool. Let's just wrap up these torpedo heads. Okay, so evasive action does not count against torpedoes. The one thing that you can do against torpedoes is turn your bow to them or away from them. It's called combing the torpedoes, because the evasive action is considered to be taking place during the gunnery phase. I'm going by the chart on that one, guys. So evasive action, before I say that, let me look that up. I take that back. It says half of all successful hits. It doesn't say gunnery hit or torpedo hit, so I'm just going to say it's for both. So it's going to be both of her 8 total torpedoes. Both sides of the template, she's so close, both sides of the template are going to hit the Canberra. So it's a total of 8 torpedoes. Only half the hits are going to matter. Target score is a 5, -1 for point blank range. She's also illuminated with her own searchlights as well as flares. I don't think that compounds. Target is lit by or uses searchlight. Okay, no, it doesn't. So it's going to be a 4. And only half these hits count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You always round up, so only 3 of those hits count. That's because of the evasive order, the evasive action order taken by the Allies earlier in the game. So that's still 3 torpedoes just hit. I don't think armor's going to do a damn thing, because the power on these is 13. These are long-range torpedoes. 13 against 4. You have to roll a 3. You have to roll a what's that? A 9 on a d6. I'm still going to roll because again, 6s always count. No 6s. So that's going to be a grand total of 3 hull hit points just automatically on the Canberra. That's going to be 3 flooding tokens. This one says flooding times 3. So I'm just going to use that to save myself some counters. And now we're going to roll to see where they hit. Do you roll for torpedoes individually? I don't know, so I'm just going to use the rules as I understand them. All right, so that was a 14. All right, let's see if any of those American torpedoes hit Chokai in the meantime. We may be trading heavy cruisers here, which actually winds up as an Allied victory. Okay, so Chokai's target to hit is a 5. These 2 destroyers that aren't here, I'm making so many mistakes today, guys. I'm so sorry. It's a terrible stream. Torpedoes. Holy crap. 12 torpedoes? Jesus Christ. This can't be right. Whatever. Here I go. First 6. Two hits. The second, well, let me get 2 more from the ship that's on the broadside. Okay, now the other one is going to fire her last 4 torpedoes. However, the torpedoes are coming from astern, which Chokai is combing the torpedoes. This is a rule in the game. So they get reduced in half. That's going to be 2. Okay, so Chokai has, how powerful are these American torpedoes? Also, American torpedoes practically never hit. Okay, that makes a little bit of sense. The Japanese actually can save some of these because the American torpedoes aren't hitting half the time, or aren't exploding half the time. Save, save. That's 2 torpedoes actually hit and God forbid explode. Alright, so it's going to be 2 flooding points on Chokai. Oh no! 2 automatic hull points. She already has some hull damage from before. Boom, she now has to make a command check. We'll do that in just a second. And I'll stop there because I don't want to screw up the turn sequence. We'll get to the end phase, and we're already in the end phase. That's the problem, is the way they do torpedo hits. Everything happens in the end phase, and it's not terribly clear what order things happen in the end phase. Okay, command check. The Chokai is in real trouble. The Chokai wants to break off. We have to see if she does or not. For a large ship, she's not a large ship, she's a medium ship. 6+ for this level of commander, for a rear admiral. So I have to roll above a 6 on 2d6. So the odds are still with me. Okay, cool, he passes my command check. Okay. HMAS Canberra has 3 flooding tokens. Needs to roll above us. Needs to roll a 7 or above on 2d6. He does make it anyway. Oh wait, we don't have Captain Bode. He just got sunk. So I have to get another command. I have to change this command card. Hold on. Okay, we are replacing the captain card with commander card because we've lost our flagship, USS Chicago. That leaves us now with he needed to roll an 8+ instead of a 7+, but with a 10 he still made it. All right, cool. He's still in command. All right, over here to Chokai, who has already passed his command check. However, he also has 2 flooding points, so he's going to take 2 additional points of flooding damage. Chokai is in trouble. Now, I think the Allies have won this game. because of those torpedoes. Those torpedoes and gunnery from the Canberra just totally messed up the Chokai. All right, we're now beginning turn 6. And this will probably be the last turn because I'm making rules. I don't know if I'm making rules mistakes or not. Hopefully I'm not. Let me catch up with the chat. I don't even know where I left off. Blue on blue against the Canberra? I don't know what that means. Oh, historically, yeah. Canberra was torpedoed by one of these two destroyers because, again, a risky retard got these two pairs of destroyers mixed up. So one of these two destroyers in these two destroyers' places accidentally torpedoed Canberra in real life. Fortunately for the Allies, that did not happen here. Springtime. Am playing with the new RAAF and USAF question mark. I don't know what question mark means. Oh, we already read those comments. Finally, everybody showed up to the battle. Yep, just in time to get shot. No, that's Unagi. It's the last ship to appear. Although, historically, she never even got into the combat. It looks like it's going to happen again this time. Why not? I've seen... Oh, we're talking about why you can't roll to present you torpedo tubes. I've seen pictures of ships rolling. Yeah, it's called capsizing. Yeah, they never seem to flip back over for some reason. Could the Canberra fire when the order were for torpedoes? I don't know if the Canberra carries torpedoes. Canberra does not carry torpedoes. And the Canberra has already fired her guns. That was the first 2 hull points inflicted on the Chokai, if that's your question, Rasmus. All right, we're going to now begin turn 6. So we have our order token straightened out. Oh, let's see who has initiative. Japanese had it last time, so ties go to the Allies. Why am I rolling 2 dice of the same color? Sorry. Blue for the Americans. Okay, the Japanese win initiative for the 3rd time going. Japanese are going to set flank speed. Japanese are going to spend 3 disruption tokens to try to disrupt that order. The Japanese therefore have to roll at least a 3, or above a 3, to defeat that disruption. 4, they did. All right, flank speed still happens. Sorry for the fan. You have to move at least 5 inches before you turn. Jeez. That ranging in is gone now because of the evasive action. Everyone's lit up now by searchlights, so we can get rid of that. All right, over now to the American action. Flank speed as well. On that squadron down there at the other end of the table. Japanese will try to disrupt. Americans now have to roll above a 3. They do. So disruption does not take place. Alright, that's it for that. Alright. Japanese have 3 orders left. Kinugasa has fired no torpedoes yet. She's firing both banks of her starboard side torpedoes. And I am reserving the veteran ships cruise thing. To be resolved after all order tokens are spent. But that's okay. I think I got that figured out finally. Yeah, it's probably something that got straightened out in 1.5. Or at least clarified. I'm aiming this way because I know he still has to move. Speaking of which, last order. I think he just dodged those torpedoes. So now Aoba has to fire her torpedoes. We'll do that. All right. They just spent all their torpedoes. Wait. Action 1, Action 2, Action 3. They forgot to fire. Okay, they will... The Americans ran out of actions. They can't fire. 1 for flank speed, 1 for maneuver, 1 for evasive action, and 1 to launch. No one launched any torpedoes. What was the 4th action on? Movement, evasive action. Oh, they fired on the Kinugasa. Okay, well, let me finish that because the Americans do get additional gunfire from their destroyers, which probably won't get through any armor, but you never know. I'll just fire both destroyers. I was going to say, the Americans can't have just forgotten to fire. Only 6s will get through. Or sorry, only 1s will get through. Ooh, American destroyers. What is this, Savo Island? I should say Samar Island. This is Savo Island. They're shooting like it was Samar Island. Look at that. 3 1s. 1s, I think, are going to get through. Because let me check that. 5-inch gun has a power of 7. And the armor on the Kinugasa is only a 5. So yeah, 5 plus 1 is a 6. 6 is less than the American gun power of 7. That's 3 freaking hits. Let's see where they were. 8, 16. Secondary weapons. So first of all, Kinugasa got 1, 2, 3 hits. Now has to make a command check. And then 3 hits on her secondary weapons. One, 2, 3. I'll just mark those down there. Oh, wait, that's not a secondary weapon. That's a tertiary weapon. They just knocked out all Kinugasa's secondary guns. Yeah, the Americans have definitely won this battle. Or they've definitely done better than the Americans did historically. Because those 2 destroyers, that's totally on the wrong ship. No, it's not, because they shot before they fired. So we were right after all. All right, so Kinugasa is all kinds of screwed up. All right, now let's see if the Japanese torpedoes can redress this situation. Fired both banks off her starboard side, so it's going to be a total of 8 torpedoes. Chance to hit is 5. -1 because point blank is a 4. So 4 are up on 8 dice. Half of these won't count because the Allies pulled off a successful evasive maneuver. However, I did say I saved that reserve crew, or that experienced crew. So misses will reroll. Okay, we wind up with a total of 7. Half of those won't count. Round up in favor of the attacker. So that's going to be 4 torpedo hits on the Canberra. That is officially the end of the Canberra. I'm not even going to go through all the motions. She only has 4 hull points left. So that's literally 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't even matter where they hit. Canberra just rolls over and sinks. There were no more torpedoes on the starboard side for those destroyers to fire. That's going to wrap up the turn, except when we do indirect action, I'm going to try to repair some of this flooding aboard my flagship. All right, so let me look this up here. Oh, guys, how you doing? Thanks for coming out. All right, before I mess this up, let me make sure I get damage control checks right. Yes, I know that. What is the damage control checks? Roll 1 dice for each fire or flooding. Four plus. If I roll a 1, it does an additional damage point, which I don't want to do. Or causes additional fire or flooding. Engineering is not hit, engineering is not disabled. So no modifiers. Okay, this is a damage control check on the Japanese flagship, IJ and Chakai. She's got 2 flooding tokens from American torpedo hits earlier in the turn. She's now going to try to shore up and counter flood to fix that. There are 2, right? It's 2, right? Yep. 2 flooding tokens. I roll 1d6 for each. I need 4 ups. Get them in the box. Okay, 1 success. However, 1 remains. That means I take an additional point of hull damage at the end of the turn. So at the end of the turn, you take an additional hull point of damage for every fire or flood token you have on your ship. She is just about crippled right now. And if she's crippled, she's in real trouble. She's basically lost, because you know what's going to happen? The sun's going to come up, and then American carrier power is going to knock her out. So let's not have that happen. Which means next turn, she cannot take any more damage, and next turn, she has to make that damage control check. She has to. The only problem is that Japanese Navy is pretty bad at damage control. By and large. So far, Canberra is down, Chicago is down. No Japanese ships are down, although we're about to lose the Chakai, I think. Okay, so we are now going to go to turn, what was that, turn 6? We're now going to go turn 7 and probably wrap up the stream. We've now been up, about 2.5 hours. So yeah, we'll wrap this up, probably 1 more turn. And we'll see where we wind up. Okay, we'll see who winds up with initiative. Nice stream on the whole team subject this week. Oh, thank you, Gaz. We're talking about the podcast earlier today, or earlier this weekend. Cool. Guys, if you're still with us, I really appreciate it. I know we had a tough start and a tough middle to the stream. We're going to edit a lot of that out. Nevertheless, I do appreciate you guys hanging with us. Okay, so the Americans are still suffering on order tokens. They only have 4. Because again, they don't have their flagship. They lost their flagships. They don't get that. They get 1 for each squadron, and they get 1 for every 2 large ships. Ooh, they no longer have 2 large ships. I'm sorry, they no longer have 4 large ships. They only have 3 because they just lost, I shouldn't say large, medium. They get 1 for every other medium ship they have. They only have 3. So the American fleet is now down to 3 order tokens. Japanese are still have their full, I think it's 6. Flagship, task force, and 6 medium ships, and 1 for their commander. They still have, 6 total. 1, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get this all straightened out. All right, cool. And at the end of the turn, at the end of the turn, she goes down. Oh no! So we see who has initiative for turn 7, probably the last turn of the game. The Americans lose initiative again. All right, cool. So the Japanese are going first. The Japanese are setting flank speed. I'm trying to get Chokai off the table. So flank speed. The Americans will try and disrupt that. Invest 3 of their disruption tokens. The Japanese have to beat a 3. God bless. The Americans are getting very lucky with their disruption tokens. Okay, so I do not get to move the full 15 inches. I only move 10. So what's happening here, he's moving forward. He's required 5. He makes a slight turn, then he moves his other 5. All right, now I'm going to move the rest of my battle group, which may or may not follow Chokai completely. I, however, do not get to move 15 inches. I don't get the benefits of my flank speed roll. 5. Slightly screwing this up here. Let me not be cheesy. The Americans. We're going after Chokai, because if we can sink her, that's the game. We are going to spend a basic activation. You can never disrupt a basic activation. So the Americans are going to play it safe. Vincennes, Astoria, and Quincy are finally getting into the fight. Okay, Japanese. Evasive action. Evasive action. Half of all enemy. Well, that's reaction to enemy's attack activation. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Slightly out of order. I'm going to open fire. I'm going to try and sink one of those destroyers before he has a chance to launch torpedoes at me. So we're within 20 inches, so we're point blank. This whole shootout is kind of point blank. The trade-off is that it takes place in darkness. However, the Japanese search planes are, of course, let me spend the order for that, so I'm playing by the rules. Japanese search planes are still dropping flares. So the Americans are illuminated, the Japanese are not, because these guys have not activated any searchlights yet. So that's going to be a grand total of, he's illuminated, point blank range, within short range, so I don't have to worry about ranging shots. No ranging shots. He's illuminated, so no night bonuses or penalties. However, it's hard to hit destroyers because they're pretty small. It's a 6 to hit a destroyer. -1 for close range. Okay, Chokai is using a veteran crew on this. This is what's nice when you have more order tokens than the enemy. The Americans are going to try and disrupt that. They fail for a change. All right, Japanese veteran crew goes through. It's that night fighting tactics the Japanese were very good at. Okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and fire. We do have all of our guns, I believe. Has Chokai lost a turret? Chokai has lost damage to one of her turrets. So it's 3, 3, and 1. It's only 7 dice. And the chance to hit is a 5. No evasive action over there, so all of these will hit. 1, 2. I get to re-roll all misses because of the veteran crew. That's going to be another 2 hits. That automatically cripples the lead destroyer, USS Patterson. Again, I know I've said this a bunch of times. These two destroyers. In fact, you know what? There's not really enough records, gaming records, to matter. There's a little, but I'd rather get the destroyers in the right place historically. I mixed up the 2 destroyers that were in the 2 American groups. Okay, so now the destroyers are in the right place, and USS Helm is now crippled. Because I just did 4 hull points on her. Boom, she literally already has. She only has 5 total hull points, so that 4th one cripples her. She won't be shooting at me. That hits in Sector 10. That is engine room. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 engine points damaged. The rudder, yeah, she's not going anywhere. Reduce armor rating by 1 shots at extreme range doesn't apply. Yeah, that ship is not moving anywhere. Ooh, wrong ship. Not moving, and she's lost power, so she's not shooting at me either. The rest of the Japanese squadron will open fire now as well. Broadside into the Astoria, forward guns into the Astoria. One of these ships has lost some of her forward guns, so I got to be careful there. Oh wait, Chokai is going to fire all of her secondary guns as well. I'm going to see if I can sink her, just to keep the board neat. I have 4 points of secondary guns. Now that reroll is on this ship, so it still applies to this. It will not apply when Keiko and Kinugasa open fire on Astoria, unless I spend another order activation. Right now we're going to see if Chokai's secondary guns can just finish off the helm. Okay, that is 3 hits. Stays at 3 hits. Now she's sunk. Well, wait a minute. I forgot to roll orders. I forgot to roll armor. Sorry. So it was 4 hits from the Chokai's main armament on the helm. Helm has an armor rating of 3. I have armor piercing value of 9. I literally have to roll a 6 on those 4 original hits. The helm might not be completely screwed up. Okay, it's the same result. We were right, but we now gone through the motions, and we've done it correctly. Secondary armament. What did I say? There were 3 hits on secondary armament. Secondary armament only has penetration value of 7 versus 3. This is 5-inch guns versus a destroyer. This will hurt. So 7 versus a 3, 4 ups will save. One, 2, fail. So now she's taken a total of 6 points of damage. She's literally sunk. 3 Allied ships down, no Japanese ships down. I know it looks like the Allies are losing. The Allies are losing the battle. But again, with the setup and victory conditions and special rules, this really, really should be a slaughter. To be honest, so far the Allies are doing much better than they did historically. The Chokai took a couple hits in real life, but she didn't even really limp away. She just kind of, she shrugged it off. Did take some system damage. One shell passed through the bridge and damn near ripped the physical head off of Takawa. That didn't happen here, but the Chokai has taken a lot more damage in other spots. Chokai, the commander of the entire Japanese fleet, Makawa, had to physically dodge an 8-inch shell in real life, and it damn near took his head off physically. When I say decapitated, I don't mean it blew up the bridge. I mean it almost ripped his bodily head off of his bodily shoulders. But it didn't happen, so he got lucky there in real life. Here, his ship has taken a lot more damage. I may still be able to save her. Although one more hit from an American torpedo, it's all up to USS Wilson. Because he's already failed his evasive action check. Wilson is going to go ahead and shoot. But once I finish up the rest of the Japanese gunfire. So again, Keiko's broadside, Kunigata's forward guns only. Kunigata has lost some forward guns, however, so she's only going to get 2. Keiko fires with everything she's got. Right? Keiko's in the lead? Yes. Keiko's in the lead. She's going to go ahead and fire with all 4. Illuminated, point blank range, no ranging shots needed. So the Astoria has a to-hit chance, or a target profile, whatever you want to call it, of 5 reduced to a 4. I'm going to spend another veteran crew check. And the Americans have no more disruption tokens. Good thing, because I didn't shoot very well. Oh, I'm cheating. Hold on, re-roll that. I'm rolling both ships together. You cannot do that. So Keiko is going to roll her 4 dice only. Okay, 2 hits, and then these 2 are going to be the re-rolls, but only Keiko gets those. They both missed anyway. Okay, so I kind of wasted that order. Okay, now we're going to roll Kunigata's 2 forward guns. 1 forward gun, because she actually got hit earlier. That does score a hit. She does not get to re-roll because I'm not spending an order token on her. Okay, so that's going to be 3 chances on an Astoria. What's the Astoria's armor? The Astoria's armor is 5. Yeah, so 4 ups are going to save. 1 save, these 2 don't. I need to start rolling that first, because that does matter. Superstructure. So 3 is brig structure, no additional effect. Okay, so Astoria has taken some hits. 1, 2, 3. No fire set, no flooding. Okay. So far we haven't hit any really juicy parts of the ship. Man, I think we hit the engine room on the Chicago right off the bat. That's the one lucky break the Japanese have really had so far. Secondary guns on the Keiko. Now these guys will get to re-roll. Come on, Keiko, where are you? Secondary guns. Oh my god, my bald spot is right in the middle of the camera. Ooh, not very much. These ships aren't that great. Reroll. Only 1 hit. And then Kunigata gets half of that for 4. That is going to be 1 hit. Okay, so now that's going to be... He's literally only hit a penetrate armor on a 1. Close, but no cigar. Okay, no targets. These guys are going to hopefully sink these destroyers. I'm going to go it all at once just to wrap things up super fast. Fubutaka and the 2 light cruisers. Okay, Fubutaka... Actually, I got to roll the light cruisers separately because they have different armor penetration. So Fubutaka has her full battery. That's 4. How How many order tokens do I have left? Just 2. This is for both Japanese. No, this is for the Japanese Japanese heavy cruiser Fubutaka. This is for this ship, broadside into that destroyer. What destroyer is that? USS Bagley. Only 6s will save. Ooh, 1 saves. So 1 hit in Sector 18, primary weapon system. So that's one of the forward gun turrets, takes a hit. Secondary gun batteries. Now, shooting secondary gun batteries at destroyers makes sense, because a 5-inch gun will totally damage destroyer armor. What was that again? Fubutaka? Yep. 4 more dice. Ooh. Okay, hopefully we got the bad rolls out of the way. The 2 Japanese light cruisers get into the battle. That is Yubari and Tenru. Those are 2 different classes, so I gotta be careful here. Oh my god, look at this mess. Boy, these Japanese light cruisers are really light cruisers. They're glorified destroyers. Yubari's not too bad. Unfortunately, Yubari can't bring all her guns to bear. Yubari's back here, so forward guns only. So half of these guns, all of these guns. They all hit on 8, you're destroyed, so only 5s up will save. Jeez. 4. What's a 4? Again with the superstructure. I keep hitting the bridge structure. That's 2 hits on Patterson. Secondary armament on all 3 Japanese cruisers. Fubutaka. Tenru. This is all firing on USS Bagley. 5s to hit. One of them is getting one of the remaining order tokens for Rudder and crew. 1, 2, 3 hits. I just kind of wasted it. Good grief, I totally just wasted it because I only get to reroll misses. Well, technically this one missed. And now I really missed. Okay, so now with secondary guns, however, 7s versus 3s. 4s up will save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. 4 ups. I think the Americans just lost another destroyer. Ooh, maybe not. Save, 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 save. Holy crap. USS Bagley, what the hell, man? USS Bagley says, the hell with you, man. I'm still in it. All right, cool. Now, Yubari. Forward secondary guns only. 1 hit, 1 miss. Number 13, is that anything good? Waterline hit. Okay, here we go. All right, let's see if the armor took it. I think that just saved it. I have to beat I think tie a 7 or beat a 7. Armor saves. T6 plus armor rating, north side hit location, 1d6 each hit, a 6 always saves. Okay, my little notes are not clear, so I have to look it up in the rulebook. Determine damage. Because I literally tied it. I rolled a 4 plus their armor's rating of 3. The destroyer's armor rating of 3 makes a 7. That's the exact damage of the gun. So I have to see if I have to match it or beat it. If the modified armor roll is equal to or higher, the armor has stopped the damage. Okay, she took that one as well. Alrighty. So this whole gun line just pretty much blasted all these fools. And they both got the hell beat out of them. They both have 2 hull points of damage. They got 1 more. They have to take a command check and then they'll be crippled. But because they're only destroyers. They're like 2,000 ton ships. But they're still in it. That's not bad for taking a point blank broadside from 3 Japanese cruisers. Okay. The American will now spend their last order. Because movement. Now gunfire. Actually, I'm not sure if these guys moved or not. I don't know if the Americans have 1 order left or 2. They only start off with 3. We took a basic maneuver. That was this one. Searchlights, that's what it was. Now they're going to fire. They can only fire 1 squadron because they only have 1 order left. They're going to spend their last order token to fire this squadron because they want to put at least 1 torpedo into Chokai. If they do that, they might actually squeak out an unlikely looking win because historically the Japanese didn't lose any ships. 1 more torpedo into Chokai should probably do it. Now, let me be really careful with this because this is going to get serious. Sorry for the air. That's a fan. I need some kind of protection from the heat. I'm sweating my ass off over this table. Wilson, you definitely have him within broadside. All right, cool. So she fires. That's a basic order. The Japanese don't get to disrupt it. Let me see if the Americans can try any of their weird radar stuff. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I'll keep her afloat. What am I talking about? Yeah, well, there's no substitution to a basic fire order. All right. So she fires torpedoes. That squadron's going to fire. It's a squadron order. That squadron's all still within 5 inches of each other, so they're all in cohesion. Long story short, that order lets them all shoot. All right, cool. Their searchlights are turned on, so it's just going to be a 4. 2 hits, armor saves. The armor does not get through. Okay, so the 5-inch guns don't do anything against Chokai. No big surprise there. USS Vincennes. Forward 8-inch guns against the Chokai. It's not 20 inches away, is it? No. All right, so it's a 4 to hit. However, only forward guns. Vincennes, where's your card? Rate of fire, 5. Holy crap. Illuminated, close range. Did not make the evasive action check. We now need 4 ups to save. All 3 survived. Japanese armor is holding. Alrighty. Vincennes. Forward secondary guns. One hit. Literally, it needs a 1 to get in there. Nope. All right, so the Vincennes is unloading everything she can with her forward guns into Chokai. So far, Chokai's taking the hits, but taking it like a champ. It's now literally down to whether or not one of Wilson's torpedoes can hit her. I'm pretty sure the Japanese will lose, but they might get lucky. All right, let me wrap up the rest of Vincennes here just so I don't forget her. Aft guns. Oh, that's right. Most of her guns are forward. Okay, so aft guns are going to fire on the Keiko. Those both miss. Aft secondary guns. Those both hit. Armor saves them on both. Okay, USS Astoria. Forward. Those are all the same class. Those are all New Orleans class cruisers. So at least I could memorize the stats quickly. On the same target. That's a little bit better. That was 4 hits. That was a 4. All right, 4 hits. 4 ups to save. Okay, 2 save, 2 don't. The ones that hit were in Sector 5. The rangefinder. Oh no! Although the guns aren't powerful enough to actually hit and damage the rangefinder. All right, cool. So it's just 2 points of hull damage on the Keiko. Keiko so far is Cherry, I believe. She's not anymore. Then I'll catch up with the chat, guys. Forward, secondary guns on the Keiko. Oh, sorry, forward secondary guns from Astoria onto the Keiko. Both hits, although only a 2 will penetrate. Ooh, 1 does penetrate. Sorry. Only a 1 penetrates. The Japanese save on a 2. Armor saves are technically Japanese rolls. The player that just got hit is what makes the armor save. So I keep calling it a penetration roll, but it's really an armor save roll. And that's really about it. Forward guns of the Quincy will take a poke at Kinugasa. Ooh, that was terrible. Only 1 hit. This saves on a 4 up. Japanese armor is just kicking it, man. Because that's outside of 20 inches, isn't it? I don't know if the Americans need to make a ranging shot on this one. No, within 15 inches. You're good. I keep skipping the ranging shot rule because this fight is so close range. It's a point blank, nighttime kind of a knife fight. So that's just why everyone's kind of ignoring ranging shots. Which the Americans get to ignore totally if they activate their radar. It's just right now they don't have enough order points to. Because they wanted to save for this all-important torpedo attack. So all these cruisers are shooting more or less blind. Although they have their searchlights on, so it doesn't really matter. But they're shooting more or less blind. They're shooting with searchlights instead of radar, just so he can launch his torpedoes. The Japanese have 1 order left. Let me make sure there's something I can do against this torpedo attack. I already spent activation on evasive action. Veteran commanders, veteran flight crews, veteran ship crews, make smoke. The torpedoes are already in the water, so that doesn't apply. I'm going to spend it now for all hands on deck. All hands on deck gets to add 1 to my damage control rolls made by a ship. Okay, no, it does not repair a hull point. All right. Oh, I think the Japanese might be toast. So the Japanese will have to roll for all 8 of these things. Jeez. Good news, 5 ups will hit. Searchlights don't help for torpedoes. So, also the Yes, they were. So the searchlights were on when the torpedoes were fired, but the searchlights don't help for a torpedo strike, I don't think. So 5-ups. Oh no! 2 hits, 2 6s. That might be it. These American destroyers, man, they're torpedoes. Then again, Samar Island, Surigao Strait, there are tons of examples of American torpedoes launched primarily from destroyers, but also PT boats, absolutely ravaging Japanese battleships, heavy cruisers. So this isn't actually terribly unusual. The one saving grace for the Japanese player is that Japanese torpedoes for the Japanese, that American torpedoes in 1942 were atrocious. They literally didn't explode half the time. So there's 2 hits. Japanese stuff saves on a 3-up. Nope. 2 more torpedoes hit. Oh, man. All right, let's see where. Was that a 10 or a 16? That was a 10. Engine room. Okay, yeah, she's totally done. She's done. Oh, no. So that's going to be 1, 2 damage points. She's now crippled. That's going to be 2 more flooding points, which means she is very, very... In fact, she's going to sink. Never mind crippled. Because unless I make all those flooding checks, and I did spend that all hands on deck order, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so that is a grand total of 2 engine hits. Was that engine or engineering? What did I roll, a 10? That is 10. Ooh, that's the rudder. Sorry. Engine damaged. Rudder is stuck. Because how much damage do these torpedoes do? I got to find the right column on the table here. And that's based off the power of the torpedoes. Damage is 4. All right, so it jumps up to that one. Okay, power from the boilers to the engines, something like that. The engines are intact, just unplugged. I guess if that makes any sense. Okay, so that wraps up the turn, except for I don't get to make. I would have gotten to make a. Hold on. I would have gotten to make a check on that previously existing flood token. So 1d6, I get to add. I get to add 1 to my roll. Normally I need a 5-up. Now I need a 3-up. Cool, it's worked. So that existing flooding token gets taken off. However, I just got hit by 2 American torpedoes. Those 2 go on there. And at the end of the turn, I then take 2 more points of damage from flooding. And that sinks Chokai. Allies win. Because the Japanese are still going to win this battle, clearly. Heavy cruiser, heavy cruiser, heavy cruiser. Oh, they're on 3, 3, and 3. It's down to even numbers. Although, another heavy cruiser, there's now 4 heavy cruisers versus 3 American heavy cruisers. 1, 2 light cruisers, and 1 destroyer. Japanese will still win this fight, but they've lost. They've officially done worse than they did historically. Macau's flagship is now sinking. Oh, there's 2 more American destroyers over here. And starting on turn 6, we were supposed to be rolling to see if if the Australia ever showed up. So, on turn 6, on turn 7, 5-up. Nope. But sooner or later, HMAS Australia is going to show up from down there. Rear Admiral Clutchy rejoins the battle. Of course, by then the Japanese should be hauling ass. The Japanese were kind of trying to escape. But okay. I think what sort of did it for the Allies was it took too long to sink the Chicago. And then once it took too long to sink the Chicago, it took too long to sink the Canberra. And those fire phases, when I was finishing off Chicago and Canberra, I should have been cleaning up American destroyers. Because as you can see, they sink awfully fast. These 2 are basically crippled. They are hella damaged. But they're still in it, technically. They have no torpedoes left on that side. This guy has no torpedoes left on this side. This guy is sinking. Chokai is sinking. Yeah. However, once the Japanese lose their flagship, they technically lose the game, based on historical victory conditions. I gave the Japanese all the advantages that they had in real life, and they still managed to beat up the Allies. I mean, the Japanese would still win this battle, but they didn't beat up the Allies badly enough. Historically, Canberra sinks, she sank here. Historically, Chicago escapes, she sank here. Historically, all three of these ships were sunk. And that destroyer, USS Helm, historically survived, although she was sunk here. But let me catch up on the chat here. Naval war games are not easy. A lot to think about besides aiming and shooting. Yeah, like compulsory movement and so on. Jennifer Lemon says they look deceptively simple. I would agree with that. I think because they don't have that many pieces on the table compared to a lot of land games. Would long-range shooting on the Wilson make sense? Oh yeah, they could have done that. From the aft guns, that was a broadside, so aft guns, all guns. So just for fun. Although, is that even long range? Believe it or not, no. Again, this is a small table. This usually you play on a much bigger table, or you play with smaller ships, and you play by centimeters instead of inches. I thought it would be a more of a fun stream if the movement rates were quicker, so you go by inches instead of centimeters. Otherwise, your average movement rate would be like, okay guys, we're on turn 2. Half an hour later, okay guys, we're on turn 3. It's more realistic that way, but it would make for a dull stream. So believe it or not, they're still in range. They're still illuminated by Japanese seaplanes. So what the hell? Primary guns, secondary guns, one primary, one secondary. Only a 6 will save them. 4, and the secondary guns are a 7, 4 up. Fail. So they both hit on the Wilson. Wilson was Cherry, not anymore. Those were 2 different weapon systems, so we do a primary and secondary guns. So we do roll 2 d20s. Primary guns hit on number 14. Secondary weapons, they don't have any secondary weapons. It goes up to a waterline hit. Everything on a destroyer is considered secondary. So the rules do specify that goes up. Oh wait, no. I rolled a 14. That is AA mounts. It does have AA guns. Okay, so Wilson just lost all of her AA guns, or half of her AA guns. And then the 5-inch hit hits on a 7. Engine room, that does hit. Fuel line or turbine. Fire is started. Oh no, we finally get to use a fire token. So you can actually set a fire on an enemy ship. So USS Wilson is now on fire. Cool. All guns from the Unagi. Although, poor Unagi, he's not very big. Pretty tough for, or Yubari, sorry. Unagi is the destroyer. There we go. 3 dice and 5-inch guns. Only 1 hit. Armor does not save. Number 15. Secondary weapons again. AA damage again. Now she's lost all of her AA guns. Okay. And that's another hull point. So she's taken a total of 1, 2, 3 hits. Indirect actions. She's going to try and put out that fire. She succeeds. Fire is removed from the Wilson, and that's what's going to save the Wilson. Because By the way, indirect actions do not cost an order token, so that's okay that we don't have any order tokens. Now that that ship has put out the fire, the ship is not crippled. Yubari fires off her torpedoes. Unagi, I keep getting those two ships. There's a big difference between those two ships. Unagi is going to fire off her starboard port side torpedoes. I'm going to fire off a full spread. All long lances. All long lances. Oh, wait, you know what I'm doing here? What I'm doing is illegal. Because at the time, wasn't Shokai like right about here? When she was sinking? So you're not allowed to fire through ships. So the Unagi firing was not legal. This ship was probably legal. And that's the ship that did all the hits. Yubari never fired off her torpedoes. Does she have any torpedoes? Oh, hell yeah. Okay, she'll fire off her torpedoes. This is all coming from Yubari, not from Unagi. You cannot fire on Vincennes from torpedoes from Yubari. You're not really allowed to fire torpedoes within a single ship's movement rate, so 5 inches in this game, of a friendly ship. It's too much of a risk to hit your own ship. So even this one is questionable, but just for fun. Is that within 20? Yep. So those 4s do count as hits. Armor saves. Nope. 11. Waterline hits. Oh no. 1 flooding token, another flooding token, and then they're going to each flood some more. It's going to be 9 flooding tokens. May have just sunk the Vincennes. Did not sink the Vincennes, but crippled her. And then she's probably going to sink later tonight because there are like 9 flooding tokens on her right now. So yeah, we'll just count her as sunk eventually. She'll sink later that morning. All right, that's the end of the game. So as you can see, the Japanese have won the battle, but once they lose Chokai, they lose the game. Probably I made rules mistakes. I didn't give the Japanese all the advantages that they should have, and again, it just took too long to sink Chicago. So when Chicago bolted in real life, I don't know, she didn't like bolt in terror, she bolted more in confusion. She just like wandered off. There's a whole bunch of books and videos you can watch about what happened. This was a very bad night for the American Navy. But when Chicago leaves, she leaves the rest of these people to fight for themselves. And we see what happens. Here, the Japanese had to spend their first 2 fire phases sinking the Chicago. Maybe it was 3. It was a lot of firepower we had to pour into Chicago. And when we finally did put her down, everybody else had time to recover a little bit. And that's when Chokai started taking all kinds of damage. The little bits of damage that ships like Kinugasa and Fukatara have taken is more in line, more consistent with what happened historically. Not all, but a few of the Japanese ships took a ping here and there. Some of it was more than a ping, like they lost a gun turret, the bridge was hit. They did walk out of there with a little bit of damage, but they did not. They didn't lose any ships. So once I actually lost a ship, that's when, especially the flagship, the most powerful ship the Japanese have. That's the end of the game for the Japanese. But again, meanwhile, 1, 2, 3, 4 American and Australian ships are sunk, and 2 more are really badly damaged. So you can take these 2 and almost add them as 1. The score is basically 5-1. But once the Japanese lose that 1, that's pretty much it. So Jen says, it is weird to think that they need lights. Now we have radar and night vision and a number of fancy technology. Yeah. That's okay. I guess it is irony, they have the best torpedoes in Dark Star. The Japanese have the best torpedoes in Dark Star. And the reason they have the best torpedoes in Dark Star is the long lance, because Dark Star is basically World War II in space. IGN torpedoes was good, it was the US that was bad. Yeah, the Americans had horrible torpedoes. They worked fine, like there was something wrong with their propulsion or anything like that. They were fast, they hit hard. It's just the fuses, they wouldn't explode half the time. They do fix this by the middle of 43 though. So this does get a lot better. Alright, so that is going to wrap us up for our look at the Battle of Savo Island. Mercifully, it is over. There's going to be a fair amount of editing on this video if we don't just take it down entirely. I think I can edit around the bad spots and actually save the stream. But we appreciate everybody who's been sticking with us. Thanks very much for putting up with all of our nonsense. Despite all the problems, technical issues, sound issues, camera issues, we did still wind up with a pretty good result. I just got to get a little bit more familiar with the rules, and I have to print out a copy of the 1.5. Because I only have the 1.5 on PDF right now, I haven't printed it out yet. And it is clearer. Just the little bit I have read through it, he does clean up some of these little ambiguous spots in the rules. So please understand this game is highly recommended, even though I spent a lot of the time flipping through the rules and trying to figure some out. This is also the first time I played the game in 5 years, and probably too big of a battle to try to run your first time with it. A better kind of a battle, if you want to try this kind of game out, might be like River Plate. The entire battle is 4 ships. Or if you want to play with bigger ships, Denmark Strait, the entire battle is 4 ships. These tiny little, I say skirmishes, but they're just bigger ships. Smaller numbers of bigger ships. But with this many ships and this many order tokens, this many special rules, this one might have been a little bit tough. But that gets us to the end of the stream, anybody, or everybody, unless anyone has any questions or comments. Before we wrap this up. All right, guys. If nobody else has anything, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming out. That was our look at the Battle of Savo Island, 9 August 1942. The Allies did manage to get their pound of flesh this time. So good on them. And I do say Allies because I know at least one of the hits on Chokai was from the HMAS Canberra. So the Australians, as always, kicked a little bit of ass. But at the end of the day, as we would see many times in the Pacific War, it was American torpedoes, despite the fact that American torpedoes are pretty bad in 1942. Americans did get a couple good lucky whacks. And again, Chicago just took too long to go down. So that's almost a further indictment on our boy Captain Bode. If he had stuck around, he probably would have gotten the hell shot out of him. But at least he wouldn't have, he may have slowed down the Japanese just enough to help turn the tide a little bit. Not terribly unexpected. Again, there's a great Drakenfell episode on this, if I'm saying his name right. Battle of Savo Island. It kicks off an 8-part series on his channel about the Guadalcanal battles, because there's so many of them. This is just the first one. Almost immediately after this comes, oh Lord have mercy, Battle of the Eastern Solomons, followed by Second Naval Battle of Guadalcanal, followed by Tassafaronga, followed by Santa Cruz, followed by Cape Esperance. There's a lot of battles. Russell Island. This is where Chicago is sunk in real life, January 1943. But the next 5 months or so are going to see like 7, at least 6, 7 naval engagements of various sizes. Also, if you guys are interested in this stuff and you haven't checked it out, go to our channel and check out Ops Center. It's in the playlist for Operations Center. Check out the Ops Center, episode 14. That is surface gunnery action in the Pacific. So if you're into naval warfare or if you're thinking about trying it out, a couple things I recommend. Number 1, stick with surface gunnery engagements first. Why? If you're used to land-based naval wargaming, surface gunnery actions are going to be the easiest transition for you. Because as you see, or as we saw in this stream, it's kind of similar. You maneuver units, you get range on target, you try to hit the target, you apply damage, usually after some kind of saving throw. Submarine combat and aircraft carrier operations are nothing like that at all. Much bigger culture shock. And also stick with the Solomons. Solomons, the battles are usually a lot smaller. There's a lot of surface gunnery action, from destroyer skirmishes all the way up to battleships, slug outs. There actually is a battleship engagement. And again, all the gunnery action is at night, because it's a carrier-dominated theater, but back then, carrier operations at night were not a thing. So surface ships were safe at night. They would come out at night and they would shoot the absolute crap out of each other, and then they would scurry back under cover of their carrier or land-based air cover before the sun came up. So you did not want to get crippled. So the sun came up, enemy dive bombers, enemy torpedo bombers would finish you off. That's how that would usually work. That actually happens to another destroyer here historically. A USS Jarvis, I think. Sunk with all hands. Not a single survivor. So, some nasty stuff in the Solomons. But the battles are small. There's a lot more gunnery action, and if you're thinking about transitioning into naval wargaming, this is where I would start. Start in the Pacific, start in the Solomons, and start with surface gunnery actions, kind of like what we saw here today. All right, so thanks everybody. Take care, Bill. Thanks for coming out. We're going to go ahead and close out the stream. And Tango Mike for listening. We'll be in touch very soon. Take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you during the week on Discord.